After being tempted several times, this young priest finally agreed to follow the young man to the junkyard. However, after performing the ritual, the priest asserted that the mentally disabled boy in front of him was completely unharmed. He simply suffered from intellectual disability like many other children with intellectual disabilities. When performing the crucifixion, the young priest himself had no reaction in his hands. This proved that there was no evil spirit residing in the body of that mentally disabled child. The young priest was about to turn and leave, but was stopped by the young man. The man believed the boy was possessed by a demon. Just then a mentally handicapped fruit fly crashed into the car window. Then, a rain of black fruits appeared in the sky. Witnessing it, both of them were scared and sweaty. This place surely had demons. Moreover, that demon is not an ordinary one but a very wide one. They are guests from the East Sea. When setting foot on human land, they brought an extremely cruel malevolence. They would gradually invade and possess the human body. They would seize the bodies and gnaw at the minds of the people in the lower social class, the ones struggling in misery. After being corroded by reason, those people will gradually become demons. At this time, they will start to seek revenge on all those who have ever looked down on them. However, these anonymous guests were just the servants of a powerful soul. All of them were controlled by Park and-zo, a wicked soul who enjoyed fresh blood and the fear of humanity. The origins of all this began 20 years ago, with Hua Pyong, a boy with extraordinary psychic abilities. He could see the demonic faces lurking within the bodies of everyone in his life. It was precisely because of this ability that Hua Pyong's father always had an antagonistic attitude towards his own son. Luckily, the remaining people were not like that. Everyone in the house was extremely empathetic to Hua Pyong's abilities. One cool, moonlit night, the village gathered to pray to the sea god for good weather, so they could freely go fishing. After the shaman completed the ritual on the shore, the young men of the village went down into the water to offer sacrifices to the sea god. As everyone was coming back up, one of them was suddenly pulled back down into the water by some mysterious supernatural force. Seeing that, the people in the village immediately enthusiastically pulled the young man up. The night fell and the man began to show strange symptoms. In the subconscious, he used a knife to attack an old man, causing him serious injuries. The people present immediately rushed to stop the man from doing things he should not do. However, he suddenly used his strength to push everyone away several meters. Hearing the commotion outside, Hua Pyong hurriedly ran out to see what was happening. The man suddenly turned his head and looked at Hua Pyong, then used a knife to stab himself in the eye. Witnessing the horrifying scene just now, Hua Pyong immediately broke out in a fever due to extreme fear. In his trance, Hua Pyong always said that he saw ghosts and demons. From that moment on, the Hua Pyong family began to encounter countless disasters and misfortunes. First, the unfortunate mother mysteriously floated dead on the surface of the sea one day, with no clear reason. After that, Hua Pyong's grandmother hanged herself from a tree branch. Too many unfortunate events had occurred, causing Hua Pyong's family to call in a shaman to perform an exorcism. But when the shaman performed the ritual, the effects were reversed against him. The shaman said that the spirit residing within Hua Pyong's body was too powerful. Compared to Hua Pyong, they were nothing. Even the shaman couldn't exorcise the spirit from Hua Pyong's body. The next day, Hua Pyong's family invited 2 priests to come. After considering, the 2 priests said that Hua Pyong was completely normal. When in contact with Hua Pyong, the crucifix tree didn't react. The priest discovered that Hua Pyong had bruises all over his body. He firmly believed that Hua Pyong had been brutally beaten by his family. Hearing the priest say that, Father Hua Pyong jumped up because he didn't do anything. After that, the 3 adults went outside, leaving Hua Pyong alone with the young priest. Feel sorry for the child suffering from domestic violence. The young priest gave Hua Pyong a piece of paper with his address written on it. Hua Pyong waved his hand at the young priest as he wanted to say something. When the priest got closer to Hua Pyong, the boy suddenly whispered 3 words, Pakinzo. 1 minute and 30 seconds later, the young priest's face suddenly became extremely pale. There was no need to guess, we knew he had been possessed by a demon. The young priest told the old priest that H found a new faith and he wanted to go home to his family. That evening, the young priest's house was surrounded by a gloomy atmosphere. The dog in the house looked at the priest and bayed repeatedly as if seeing a ghost. At this moment, the young priest stood up and used a stick to quiet the dog. The next victim was his parents. Under the influence of the demon, the young priest was ready to slaughter his own biological parents. At this time, there was still a younger brother in the house. A young priest with a terrifying face slowly walked towards the door of the boy's room. The boy scaredly hid under the bed so that his older brother couldn't find him. On the side of Hua Pyong's family, the situation was not optimistic. Remembering the shaman's warning, Hua Pyong's father decided to bid farewell to his son by himself. Fortunately, Hua Pyong's grandfather appeared in time to stop his father. Seizing this opportunity, Hua Pyong panicked and ran outside. The young boy felt his way to the address written on the paper, and found the priest's house who was possessed. Looking towards distant house, Hua Pyong suddenly became extremely frightened. At that moment, mother and daughter police officers happened to be passing by. Seeing Hua Pyong just standing and staring intently towards the house, the female police officer was certain that something bad had happened. At this moment, the possessed priest was still finding his runaway younger brother. In a moment of danger, the sound of a sudden knock on the door echoes. When the young priest stepped out and opened the door, the police noticed his hands stained with blood. After that, the policewoman made an excuse of asking for drinks to investigate the situation. Stepping inside, she was astonished and taken aback when she saw dead bodies scattered everywhere. The murderer's modus operandi was extremely cruel. She immediately called the police station to request backup. Not long after, the policewoman found the priest's younger brother possessed. At that moment, the possessed priest suddenly appeared and attacked the policewoman. Without further thought, the policewoman immediately sacrificed herself to restrain the demon in front of her, so that the younger brother could escape, but she was also not the demon's opponent. Not long after, the female police officer was killed. When my younger brother ran outside, the police had also arrived. Afterwards, the saddened police force carried the policewoman's body out of the house. Witnessing her mother sacrifice herself in an act of heroism, the policewoman's daughter was truly devastated. She couldn't believe what was happening in front of her. The possessed priest had also disappeared. Looking towards the peon flower field, suddenly saw his evil face. This scene haunted Wapyong for long. When Wapyong grew up, he worked as a taxi driver, but he still continued finding the possessed priest. In Wapyong's subconscious, the demon residing in the body of the main priest was the most powerful evil soul, Park and Zo. Wapyong had psychic abilities that could easily identify places where evil spirits were causing trouble. He could find and rescue victims or those in danger in a timely manner. However, he had never found any clues about the possessed priest. That night, Wapyong continued to dream about a crime. The location was some underground sewer. Wapyong startled awake. Then he tried to use internet to search for the areas present in his dream. The next day, Wapyong went to the location that matched his dream. There, he found a corpse among the peon flowers. He asked the worker to call the police. The police arrived at the scene to handle the case. The beautiful detective Jiu Ying also came to get an overview of the situation. The victim was the director of an environmental company, killed by multiple stab wounds. The area was dry, but the victim's body had a lot of seawater on it. The police found a vehicle near the body. There was a lot of blood inside the car, suggesting he was killed in the vehicle and then moved to this location. There must have been a reason why the killer dumped the body into the sewer. Afterward, Jiu Yang went to the victim's office to investigate. The director had a dispute with an employee. He made the employee work on a bad weather day, causing an accident, but the director refused to compensate the employee, but he was left paralyzed and had to use a wheelchair. Wapyong was at the employee's house and asked him about the attacked priest. He appeared very startled when Wapyong saw his photo. He seemed to know something and wanted to make Wapyong leave. Wapyong met the employee's daughter as he was leaving. The girl said her father had been behaving strangely recently. The girl looked very frightened. Wapyong tried to ask for more information, but the girl left without saying anything else. As Wapyong was heading back to his car, he met Gil Young. When Wapyong met Gil Young, the police officer Kong recognized him. Young, can sack Kong de Thay Quan Mat. The mischievous green-nosed culprit was captured on camera at the crime scene and the director's office. Now the culprit had appeared at the suspect's house. Claiming he was not involved in the case would not be believable. Jill Young took this young man to the police station. She asked him why he appeared at those places. It was hard to believe, but he claimed to be a psychic. I was forewarned about the crime scene. Officer Khan thought this guy was talking nonsense, so he kept Wapyong at the station until evening. Now Wapyong was dreaming that the employee's family was facing a major crisis. As soon as the police released Wapyong due to lack of evidence, he rushed to the employee's house. Wapyong met Jill Young at the house, as she had also come to investigate. When they went inside, they found that the employee's wife had been murdered. The employee and the daughter were nowhere to be found. They immediately went outside to find them. The employee had been paralyzed that morning, but now he was standing outside, looking at Wapyong and Jill Young with a sinister gaze. Then the employee turned and ran away. Wapyong and Jill Young quickly chased after him. Who would have thought he was not paralyzed at all and could run so fast? He seemed to be jumping and running, and it took Wapyong a long time to catch up with him. The employee even pulled a gun on Wapyong, trying to shoot him. Luckily, Jill Young arrived in time to help Wapyong. The two of them were able to subdue the employee. He confessed to murdering his wife and daughter. Jill Young was outraged after hearing this. She came and punched the employee's mouth continuously. Afterwards, she wanted to take him back to the station, but at this time the employee couldn't go. Wapyong knew that the haunted soul had left his body, so he had to carry him out to the car. Unexpectedly, Wapyong struck Jill Young. He locked her up and took the employee away. After that, Wapyong took him to the place of the French sorcerer to exorcise. At the same time, inquire about the whereabouts of the evil spirit Park Inju. The sorcerer friend said he was not strong enough to exorcise this evil spirit, so he took two priests to help. First, the young priest Matthew wanted to examine the employee to see if he was truly possessed. Surprisingly, he sat up and grabbed the old priest's robe. He always kept talking about scary sounds. They tied the employee up together. Then they left him alone with the elderly priest to perform the exorcism. Now Jill Young had arrived at the location. She was determined to take the employee away. She also threatened to arrest Wapyong. At that moment, the elderly priest came out. His face looked a bit pale, but it seemed the exorcism was successful. The two priests returned. Jill Young sent the employee back to prison, but Wapyong discovered the employee had not actually been exorcised yet. He warned Jill Young to be careful, as the employee might do something terrible. Sure enough, after being brought back to the station, the employee started behaving strangely. He kept scratching himself until his skin was torn and bleeding. The police had to restrain him. Unexpectedly, the employee holding a pencil stabbed it into his eye. Now Jill Young just remembered what Wapyung said. Unexpectedly, this terrible thing really happened. The police had to carry the employee to the hospital. On the other hand, after performing the exorcism, the old priest also had unusual behavior. He warned Matthew about a powerful spirit near Wapyung. It's best not to get involved with him. Right after that, the elderly priest was hit by a car as he walked out onto the street. The next day, Wapyung went to the elderly priest's funeral. He knew the previous exorcism had failed. Wapyung wanted the young priest to help him perform another ritual to try to find the missing daughter of that family. Matthew refused, because his mentor had previously warned him. Wapyung was furious and accused the young priest of being a coward. Then he returned home to ask his wizard friend for help. But his friend also knew that this spirit was very strong. If continued to hesitate, it would lead to severe consequences. However, under Wapyung's persuasion, the sorcerer friend also started to waver. He went to the hospital to help exorcise the employee, but the magical power of the wizard friend was too weak, causing him to be counterattacked and bloodied. Unexpectedly, a young priest arrived. He wanted everyone to leave for him to deal with this demon. After using some basic techniques on the demon inside him, the employee started to suffer and struggle in pain. Then the employee pointed to a corner. Matthew thought that his soul escaped from his body and hid there, so he turned back. I didn't expect the employee was just trying to distract the young priest. He took advantage of the opportunity to lift him up. Matthew pressed the leather staff against the employee's forehead, allowing him to barely escape. After that, the young priest decided to use a stronger method. The evil spirit possessing the employee kept calling out for help. Was there another soul here? Hearing the employee shout the name Park In-do, Matthew felt a chill down his spine. Because there was now a very powerful spirit which was present around them, it left him completely powerless to resist. It wasn't until the spirit left that he was finally able to compose himself. The young priest was still determined not to give up and complete the final step of the ritual. The demon possessing the employee was also dealt with. After the ceremony, he sprayed a pile of seawater. After that, Matthew went outside with a gloomy face and handed the employee over to the police. He would inform the police of his daughter's location. Jo I-young and Matthew returned to the staff member's house to continue finding the missing daughter. Now, Wapyung reacted to the evil spirit by grabbing Jo I-young by the neck. After a final struggle, police officer Kong managed to control Wapyung. He also escaped from evil spirit's control. Since that, Wapyung himself reacted strongly to this assassination case, allowing the evil spirit to control and cause chaos. At that moment, Wapyung discovered something inside the cabinet. Jo I-young approached the inspection and discovered a hidden black crow inside. This might be the spell that helped the demon possess the employee. Then they quickly disposed of it. Afterwards, Jo I-young and Matthew received news about the position of the employee's daughter, so they hurriedly ran to the place. They found and rescued the little girl afterwards. Right now she was still so scared. The next day, Lin Muk came to see the staff member at the hospital to ensure that he was completely fine. The evil soul inside employee has been extinguished. On this side, Wapyung also came to visit his daughter. He advises the little girl to go meet her father. Possessed by demons, her father resorted to assassinating his wife and committing atrocities against his daughter, because he himself did not want such a thing to happen. She was also knowledgeable. She promised to visit her father. In the evening, Wapyung was led to take over another case. On the taxi hanging a monkey doll, 2 girls were kidnapped and murdered. Early in the morning, he told Jo I-young this story. He asked her to find the missing girl with similar characteristics. However, at this time, Jo I-young still did not completely trust Wapyung, but as a police officer, she could not ignore such cases. The police increasingly relied on her colleagues to find for this. Her colleague indeed could find a girl with similar characteristics, was informed of the disappearance by a family 2 days ago. After that, Jo I-young called to verify this information with Wapyung. Both of them started searching together. The evening named kidnapping continued to act. He drove a taxi and tricked the short-haired girl into getting into the car. However, she did not take the right path and the girl could find out it. At this moment, Wapyung's car accidentally passed by the kidnapper's car. He hurriedly chased the guest down and then turned around to chase after him. Wapyung blocked the car's path and captured the kidnapper. Surprisingly, he reversed the car and then rushed straight towards him, making him hurriedly dodge. Then both of them chased tensely together on the highway. By the way, let's use VR technology when chasing others. Wapyung went straight to the tail of the kidnapper's car. Both of them together rushed down in a desolate place. After the accident, Wapyung fainted for a while. When he woke up, he quickly ran to the kidnapper's car, but the kidnapper had already escaped. Wapyung opened the trunk and found a short-haired girl. He called Jo I-young about this case. Surprisingly, the kidnapper's name suddenly attacked Wapyung from behind, made him to fall down the ground. Wapyung was determined to keep him. Wapyung seemed to be so tough, the kidnapper gave him a few more beatings. Fortunately, a truck arrived at the scene. Otherwise, Wapyung could not survive and make it back. The next day, Wapyung woke up in the hospital. It seemed like he didn't look like someone who was seriously injured. As soon as he was conscious, Wapyung hastily left the hospital. Outside, he encountered police officer Kong. If after an accident want to avoid being exposed, then definitely, the kidnapper's car would not be taken for repairs, but would instead be taken to the scrapyard. Joe Ayong and his senior went to the scrapyard to inspect. Here, Kong police found the kidnapper's car. Meanwhile, they discovered someone secretly observing her and the senior. Both immediately chased after this person. Joe Ayong blocked the head and hit him with a blow that made him collapse, not expecting this person to be the younger brother of the scrapyard owner. Moreover, he was also a person with low intellectual capacity. When brought back to the police station for questioning, the mentally disabled guy appeared disoriented and didn't know anything. He could not provide any valuable clues or information for the cases. Joe Ayong told Wapyung about this situation. He decided to meet the intellectually disabled young man at the scrapyard. That evening, Wapyung had a nightmare. The possessed priest and the demon Park In-zo appeared, wanting to take Wapyung's life. After that, all around him was water. He suddenly woke up. Luckily, it was just a dream. The Riend believes that Wapyung seemed quite attractive to evil spirits, so there were always lingering spirits and souls around him. It was obviously known without saying again. Since childhood, Wapyung had always had a strong connection with the supernatural. The next day, Wapyung and his friend went to the scrapyard. They want to test if there is any evil spirit clinging to the mentally disabled boy. When they looked, they saw the disabled young man sitting and scratching himself. This was clearly a sign of demonic possession. The disabled young man intended to resist them. Wapyung and his friend were also ready to attack him. Surprisingly, his brother appeared to prevent. After that, he invited them into the room to talk to each other. The shaman friend told the blonde-haired man that his brother had been possessed by ghosts, but he didn't believe it. Wapyung found a newspaper article with a picture of the exorcist priest who came to dispel evil spirits for him in the past. Wapyung told the curly-haired young man that if he did not believe his brother was possessed, why he kept the information of this priest for what? Curly-haired man was discovered secretly and then felt extremely uneasy. After that, Wapyung asked his friend here to watch over the disabled man, while Wapyung himself went to find the old exorcist priest. After meeting the old priest, Wapyung asked him for information about the exorcist priest who had been possessed years ago, but the affair of his subordinate had caused the old priest to be in crisis. The information about the possessed priest after that murder case had completely disappeared, as he had quit his profession long ago. The old priest could not help Wapyung in any way. That evening, the curly-haired young man noticed that his brother was acting strange. He kept asking his brother a series of questions. Why did you leave me and let mother beat me? It turned out that when we were little, they were often physically abused by their mother. The healthy brother was always quicker and ran away to escape, leaving the vulnerable brother to be cruelly abused by the mother. This was what made my younger sibling resent my older brother. At this moment, the curly-haired person felt his younger brother's change. It was indeed haunted. The curly-haired man went outside to make a phone call asking the wizard for help. That moment, Wapyung also came back. Wapyung wanted to bring the curly-haired person to meet someone. Then, Joe Ayong went to the third victim's house as Wapyung said, but he didn't expect that the girl was still alive. Thinking that Wapyung had deceived him, so the police nag called and berated him. She wanted to put an end to how many spiritual cases that Wapyung mentioned. Wapyung was angry as despite all that had happened, Joe Ayong still did not believe in Wapyung's psychic abilities. After that, Wapyung took the curly-haired young man to visit Father Matthew. They asked him to perform an exorcism to drive away the evil possessing the disabled man, so he could have a normal life. Matthew agreed to their request. The young priest took Wapyung to the junkyard. However, after examining the disabled young man, Matthew concluded that the young man was not possessed by evils, but simply suffered from an intellectual disability, because the young priest's crucifix did not have any reaction to any soul around here. Matthew wanted to go back, but Wapyung prevented him afterwards. He also asserted that the mentally disabled person was haunted by ghosts. Suddenly, a crow swooped down and crashed into the vehicle, tumbling in front of them. Then in the sky, crows fell from the sky like rain. Both of them were terrified by this scene. Certainly there were demons here, and this demon was extraordinary. Meanwhile, Joe Ayong went to eat with his senior. When the server brought out the wine, the senior casually teased him. This lady must have a love scar or tattoo to have to wear long sleeves. Joe Ayong remembered that the woman was wearing long sleeves when she met the short-haired woman who was believed to be the third victim. Officer Kong decided to visit the short-haired woman's house one more time. She found out that the short-haired woman still had vivid marks on her arms. She really had been kidnapped, just as Wapyung had said. The curly-haired woman retold the whole story to Joe Ayong from the moment she was captured until she escaped. But what the police officer Kong was most concerned about in that story was the name of the kidnapper and his accomplice. At this time, the young priest and Wapyung decided to perform an exorcism on the disabled young man one more time. However, he didn't react anything. Wapyung took out a photo of the possessed priest and asked the young man if he recognized this person. I didn't expect the young priest to recognize this person. Surprisingly, all the lights went out. The curly-haired man turned around and grabbed a flashlight. When there was light, some people discovered that the disabled person disappeared. He hid to one side then rushed out holding the young priest's knife. Wapyung told the curly-haired boy to stop, but he remained silent and approached closer. In his hand was a pair of pliers. The curly-haired man stared directly into Wapyung's eyes, making him imagine the scene of the young priest being assassinated. Unexpectedly, the one who was possessed was the curly-haired man, not the intellectually disabled young man. The disabled young man was only being manipulated by his older brother and had become an accomplice with him. After that, they tied up both the priest and Wapyung. Now Wapyung's phone was receiving a call from Joe Ayong to confirm the information. Everything he told her was the truth. Seeing that there was no response from the other end of the line, Officer Kong realized that Wapiang was facing a trouble. She quickly called the police team to go provide support. At this moment, Wapiang and the young priest also regained consciousness. The curly-haired man said that when the priest performed the ritual, he felt intensely painful. Afterwards, the curly-haired guy vomited a pile of screws and then rushed to torment his younger brother. The disabled young brother had to be beaten to learn to listen. Why did the priest not listen to his older brother? He also mentioned the priest Matthew. It turned out that he was the younger brother of the priest who was haunted years ago. Right now Wapiang had recognized. He would like to confirm this, so he would try to ask the young priest. But Matthew was still suffering from psychological trauma when remembering the events, so he didn't provide a clear answer. Suddenly the curly-haired man grabbed the stick and dealt with them. Wapiang tried to ask for the reason why the evil spirit possessed his brother instead of his younger one. The curly-haired man said that he has been cursed ever since his younger sibling committed the first murder. That was the girl that the disabled man liked, but she had rejected him, so that's why he committed the murder. The curly-handed man felt helpless because he could not stop its younger brother, but when helpless and becoming the weakest, this evil soul could invade the body. After recounting the curly-haired person's name, they wanted to continue taking action. Luckily, Jo Aiyang arrived in time. She rushed towards him like a cat. The mentally disabled kid wanted to save his older brother but got beaten in an instant. The curly-haired man took the opportunity to run away. Jo Aiyang got in the car to chase after him, but didn't expect that he had already punctured the tires of her car. The others turned back to ask the disabled man where his brother would go. The mentally disabled person was extremely scared right now and could not say anything. Jo Aiyang remembered the short-haired girl. If not mistaken, the curly-haired man would go there to deal with the person who escaped. When Jo Aiyang and Matthew arrived at the short-haired's house, her daughter said her mother had gone to the supermarket. They hurriedly drove to find. At this moment, the short-haired woman was being followed by the curly-haired man. She was extremely anxious and ran home, but fumbled and dropped her house keys. The curly-haired man appeared and forced her to go with him. He took short-haired woman back to her mother's house and then brought her into a secret basement. At this time, the young priest saw that the disabled boy calmed down. He asked him where his older brother had gone, after pleading with him for a while, and they said if he wanted to rescue his brother, then told them the location of where he was. He would help his brother get rid of the haunting. The disabled man agreed with Matthew's proposal. After knowing curly-haired's location, Jo Aiyang and Matthew came to find him. Both of them rushed in to fight him, making him scream loudly. The curly-haired man was knocked unconscious. The short-haired woman was able to escape unarmed. Afterwards, Jo Aiyang took the curly-haired man to the car to take him to the police station. Wapiang wanted her to give him some time to take the man to perform an exorcism before bringing him in, so that he wouldn't go his own way. Jo Aiyang agreed. But when they looked back at the name of the curly hair, he was eating his own hand. Both of them tried to stop him, but the car door was locked from the inside. They watched helplessly as the curly-haired man ended his own life. Now the senior investigator questioned Jo Aiyang about the strange death of the curly-haired man. Jo Aiyang did not understand it either. Everything had been foretold by Wapiang beforehand. She was just the witness. If what he said was true, then this world truly had demons. This matter was becoming more complicated. Wapiang met with the young priest to ask about the possessed priest. He also admitted that he was the possessed child who had appeared at Matthew's house before. The young priest understood the problem. He recounted that after his older brother massacred the entire family, the brother completely disappeared. Wapiang said that in the possessed priest's body was the evil spirit of the supreme dark demon Pekenzer. The young priest was surprised when he turned around and saw a man climbing the mountain and accidentally came across a set of bones. The police identified the deceased as the possessed priest. Wasn't it the soul of Park In-doo that had possessed the priest's body? Wapiang rushed to the crime scene to confirm, but the police did not let him in. Wapiang then went to the witness's house to inquire. The witness said the bones were exposed because the rain washed away the soil. Normally, the witness passed by that area without noticing anything. Hearing this, Wapiang became even more suspicious. On the other hand, Zia Yang returned to the police station. She was suspended as she let the culprits of 2 recent cases get away, one in death and one in injury. How could she have prevented that with a demon? The police knew that even if she explained, no one would believe her. She had no choice but to sulkily turn and leave. Outside, she received a phone call from the chief. The chief wanted to meet with Zia Yang to tell her a secret. At this time, the old priest and Matthew came to the police station to confirm that the possessed priest. When Matthew saw the relic, he became more certain that this was his brother. After leaving, the two met with a female politician. This was an acquaintance of the old priest. They often worked together on charitable funds. The female politician came to stop the director from investigating the skeleton. She was very unhappy with the director. She warned that continuing the investigation would cause a big problem. The female politician shouted as if she was possessed. It seemed she was connected to the disappearance of the possessed priest. Moreover, a powerful soul was possessing her. That night, Wapiang returned to the place where the possessed priest's remains were found, to continue investigating his suspicions. He met Priest Matthew here, who was also investigating. Later, Jo Aiyang also arrived. 2 people got in the car and left to avoid being detected by the police for illegally tampering with the crime scene. Jo Aiyang took both of them to the house of the possessed priest. Now, she admitted that she was the daughter of the female police officer from the past. The person entered the house, rescued Matthew and left him inside, losing their own life. She just found out that Matthew was the younger brother of the recently possessed priest, according to the superintendent's words. She became a police officer in order to find her mother's killer. But unexpectedly, the priest who was possessed died before she found out. At this moment, Wah-Pyung finally spoke up and admitted he was the child standing in front of the house that made Jil Young's mother get out of the car to rescue and go into that house and die. Wah-Pyung asserted that the person who killed Jil Young's mother was not the possessed priest, but it was the soul of Park In that entered his body causing it. Wah-Pyung himself was the first person to be possessed by the spirit of Park In. After the priest was possessed, he went to the house of Park In's soul because he just moved into his body. After hearing everything, Jo Ah-young angrily rushed forward, struck Wah-Pyung with a painful blow, then got into the car and left. The next day, Father Matthew decided to have his older brother cremated. Wah-Pyung came to share sadness with Matthew as the demon Park In turned his younger brother, the young priest, into a murderer. He also lost his entire family in one night. Matthew deeply hated and finally Wah-Pyung managed to arrest this demon. Wah-Pyung warned that this matter would be very dangerous, but Matthew decided to go through with it. In the evening, a girl with long hair was preparing to commit suicide. Suddenly, she received a message. The inside content included that instead of harming yourself, harm everyone. Then the long-haired girl transformed into someone else. She aimed at a director, intending to kill him, but failed afterwards. At this time, the police received a report of a missing office worker, so they went to his house to investigate but found no results, though the police came to his office to work. Here, his colleagues informed the police that he had a girlfriend. So the police invited the long-haired girl to the station for questioning. Seeing her expression, Jo Ah-young knew that this person had something hidden but had no evidence, so he had to let it go. After returning, the girl with long hair sought out Father Matthew. She said that she had been possessed. Observing the long-haired girl's expression, Matthew advised her to go to the hospital for psychiatric treatment. When she mentioned demon's name haunting her, the young priest was taken aback. Little did he know it was Park In-do. In the evening, the young priest took Wah-Pyung to the long-haired girl's house. They discovered that she was preparing to harm others, so they quickly intervened. Wah-Pyung discovered in the long-haired girl's bag a magazine from an organization. At this moment, the girl with long hair, Wah-Pyung, and the young priest shouted loudly that they were being bullied. Citizens came to pull two men for the girl to run into the house. The police also quickly arrived at this place. Because they thought Wah-Pyung and Matthew were two perverts, the police decided to take them back to the station. Luckily, Jo Ah-young came to the rescue, and unexpectedly, the door of the girl with long hair opened. She cut her own hand. Everyone was shocked to witness the scene. Afterwards, the police took the girl to the hospital while Wah-Pyung and the priest were taken back to the station. In the hospital, Jo Ah-young asked the girl with long hair if she killed her boyfriend and hid in his human body. She not only admitted but also showed the police the hiding place of her boyfriend's body. Jo Ah-young also hurriedly set off. But suddenly on the way, Jo Ah-young remembered what Wah-Pyung had said before. She should be careful with possessed ones. From people who were possessed before, she also knew what terrible things could happen. Jo Ah-young told his senior to go to the place where the girl with long hair hid the boyfriend's body while he would return to the hospital. She didn't expect that when Jo Ah-young returned, the girl had disappeared. On this side, the senior also found the car that the long-haired girl hid her boyfriend's human body. At this time, Wah-Pyung was at the police station. He saw the girl with long hair attacking the director in his mind. The young priest saw the strange Wah-Pyung and came to examine. Wah-Pyung was being controlled by an evil spirit and couldn't restrain Matthew. Jo Ah-young returned in time to wake him up. Now Wah-Pyung told Jo Ah-young that the scene he saw in his dream was an office with some toy model tanks. Jo Ah-young remembered the office of the director she went to in the morning. She asked Wah-Pyung to go back with the priest. Wah-Pyung wanted to go along but the police refused. She went with her senior to the office. The two of them took action. While the senior was walking alone, suddenly a girl with long hair appeared behind him and grabbed his shirt. On this side, Wah-Pyung also wanted to investigate on his own. He persuaded Father Matthew to break into the long-haired girl's house. Just then, her roommate returned. After hearing the story, they found out that her long-haired boyfriend was not being harmed but rather he was ending his own life. The reason was being pressured by colleagues to the point of autism. The long-haired girl was extremely desperate after the boyfriend's death, so she created an opportunity for the evil spirit to possess her body. Afterwards, it helped the long-haired girl to report the thief for her boyfriend. After knowing this, Wah-Pyung went to her boyfriend's office. On the way, Wah-Pyung was possessed again. He saw his senior being seriously injured. Wah-Pyung lost focus, causing the car to almost have an accident. Fortunately, the priest reacted promptly. After that, Wah-Pyung reported that his senior was in danger to Jo Ah-young. Upon hearing this, she hurriedly arrived. The police officer Kong discovered the blood-soaked director and intended to call for an ambulance. According to Jo Ah-young's inattention, the long-haired girl suddenly rushed out and attacked, severely injuring Jo Ah-young. Then the long-haired girl tied Jo Ah-young with the director in a room. Now the evil spirit took possession of the long-haired girl's body for Jo Ah-young to know. It wanted to report attackers of her boyfriend. Jo Ah-young asked the demon inside the long-haired girl if it was Park In-do. This statement has made her angry. This was the last time she could mention this name. After solving the director's name, it would be Jo Ah-young's turn. The girl with long hair holding a knife advanced towards the director. Jo Ayoung used remaining strength to push her down. She was angry and determined to end her own life. Luckily, Hua Pyong and the priest arrived in time. They heard the call and long-haired girl hurriedly ran away. The two of them chased after each other in two directions. The pastor was chased by the evil while Hua Pyong was smarter. Hack knocked down long-haired girl. Then he got off the car intending to catch her, but she attacked him. At this moment, the priest ran to the cross and put it on the long-haired girl. That's why she let go of Hua Pyong and fell unconscious to the ground. Afterwards, Hua Pyong returned to the Jo Ayoung rescue office. They also found the senior who was captured. At this time, the priest took the long-haired girl to exorcise evil spirits. Hua Pyong and Jo Ayoung also want to help. Yu Ayoung Kong Muon Jup as you see. The demon inside the girl with long hair manipulated everyone from one person to another. It reminded her of the painful departure of Jo Ayoung's mother. Threatening to harm Hua Pyong's grandfather, it tried to divide the relationship of the three people, but all three tried to overcome. Hua Pyong took out a photo of her boyfriend encouraging the girl. Live on for the loved one and the unborn child. Unexpectedly, this girl was still pregnant. The young priest wanted to help her expel the demon inside her body to save the lives of both mother and child. The girl roared loudly, then sprayed a pile of seawater and collapsed. Finally, after much effort, the three people helped her chase the demon away. The next day, Jo Ayoung went to meet Hua Pyong and the priest. After all that happened, she finally believed in Hua Pyong. Kong police wanted to go with them to catch the demon Park In Do to avenge their mother and prevent it from continuing to do bad things. Lin Muk Matthew Kong Don YV Chayan Nai Kwa Noim. Kolok and Sat Va Kong beat Give Kak Len On. There was an argument between the two. Matthew turned and walked away. At this moment, Hua Pyong spoke up and wanted her to join as well. At least, she needed to know more about the demon that had killed her mother. The next day, Hua Pyong led the priest to the place where the possessed priest's body was found once again. They wanted to find out the reason behind the priest's death. The priest began summoning the spirit. After being possessed, he started digging around the nearby area, and they found another body. The police determined that this was the body of a missing female student from 20 years ago, close to the time when the priest's possessed incident occurred. Hua Pyong called Jo Ayoung to inform her. To his surprise, Jo Ayoung already knew about this female student. The missing female student's case was extremely strange. And the person who investigated that case was actually the Kane's mother. After hanging up the phone, Jo Ayoung searched through his mother's pile of belongings. She discovered her mother's investigation diary, which contained the information her mother had uncovered about the case of the missing female student. Jo Ayoung found the name of a suspect that her mother had investigated. It was the name of the female artist Park Hong-ju. On the other hand, Priest Matthew also found a common thread among the people who had been possessed. He found that they all knew the Congressman Park and received charitable donations from her organization. Matthew told Hua Pyong about this story. Hua Pyong then told the police officer Kong about this. She said the suspect in the case of the missing female student 20 years ago was also Congresswoman Park. This could not have been just a coincidence. Through her mother's investigation notebook, Jo Ayoung found a witness. It was the security guard at school that the female student and Congressman Park had both attended 20 years ago. The night the female student went missing, the security guard had seen Congressman Park at the school. However, the security guard later changed his testimony. He must have been threatened by someone. Currently, the security guard was mentally ill and was in the hospital. Hua Pyong and Jo Ayoung went there to meet him. Hua Pyong noticed that the security guard was drawing something on the ground. To their surprise, it was the symbol of the demon Park In-zo. He took out a photo of the female congressman and asked the security guard if he was drawing her. Seeing the photo, the security guard became extremely panicked. This confirmed that the person threatening him was indeed Congresswoman Park. The next day, Hua Pyong told Priest Matthew about this. But Matthew said that Congresswoman Park was not the one possessed by Park In-do, because the night before, he had seen her coming to the church to pray. If she was possessed by a demon, she couldn't step foot in the church, but so many clues were pointing to her. This matter surely had some big secret behind it. At this time, Hua Pyong and Priest Matthew met with an elderly priest. He gave them important information. It was that if the demon completely possessed the person, it would not fear the Holy Cross or the scriptures, and could enter the church. There had been cases like this happening abroad. When the demon had been inside the person's body for too long, it could completely take over that body for itself. So, could it be that Congressman Park had been completely possessed by ghosts? The next morning, they went to meet another witness, the female student's classmate who had died 20 years ago. According to the witness, the Hua Pyong team found out that the female student had been abused and harmed by Congresswoman Park. After discovering this, the friend reported it to the security guard. After checking, the security guard said it was just a normal hit. The female student had been taken to the hospital by Congresswoman Park. However, the next day, she heard that her classmate had been away from home. The friend didn't believe this, so he told a female police officer who was investigating the missing case. Later, the female police officer went missing while investigating another case. This police officer was Jo Yang's mother. Few days later, the friend went to the security guard to ask about the incident that night. But he now showed some unusual behaviors. He stopped her from mentioning that if not there would be a similar outcome as the female police officer. Jo Ayoung asked a friend to be a witness, but she was now married. If involved in this complicated matter, only Jiu Aiyang and his family would be in danger. Both of them understood her and left. At this time, Wapiang came to find Congressman Park. Wapiang was trying to verify if the demon Park Indu was possessing her. However, she did not reveal any weaknesses. Even when Priest Matthew performed the ritual and presented the crucifix to Congresswoman Park, she still tried to conceal the demon inside her. Until she entered the restroom, she showed signs of pain. At this time Wapiang found another way to verify. Those possessed by Park Indu will have the same traits as when he was young. Their right eye will be impaired. They needed a way to verify this. That evening, Jiu Aiyang received a call. The security guard in the psychiatric ward disappeared. Since when Jiu Aiyang and Matthew came here to meet him, his mental illness had shown signs of decline. He no longer shouted randomly. Instead, his mouth constantly murmured a name. Jiu Yang heard the name of this person and became worried, because that security guard was the female student's friend who was assaulted 20 years ago, the same one the group had just met the previous day. She was in danger. This time, Wapiang also predicted the next case that was about to happen. He told Matthew and rushed to the friend's house. But she had already been killed. The security guard also stabbed himself in the eye. Luckily they found the girl's son still alive. At this moment, Wapiang was extremely angry. He wanted to find Congresswoman Park and make her end everything, but Matthew stopped Wapiang. The two of them had a dispute. Wapiang punched Matthew and then left. At this moment, he could not think any further. He just wanted to destroy Park Indu's servants. Wapiang rushed to the congresswoman and demanded to know if she was Park Indu. The congressman just laughed and recalled Wapiang's past. At this moment, he counted sure that the person in front of him was being possessed by Park Indu. If not, how would she know about his mother and grandmother's story when being harmed? Wapiang grabbed a knife, intending to kill her, but was stopped by the security guards. Congressman Park requested to hand over Wapiang to the police and then flashed an evil smile. Jiu Aiyang and Priest Matthew arrived. They witnessed all and even ensured that Congresswoman Park was indeed Park Indu. The next day, Matthew asked the priest to arrange a meeting with Congressman Park. He wanted to ask her not to prosecute Wapiang. To his surprise, she easily agreed to this request. Afterward, Wapiang was also released. However, that night he was being tailed by someone. He threatened Wapiang not to try to approach Congresswoman Park again, or else the consequences would be severe. Wapiang decided to come back his hometown for a while. During a meal, an old woman suddenly came to find his grandfather. My grandmother said that her granddaughter who lived on the street had the same symptoms as Wapiang when he was young. The little girl constantly saw ghosts and spirits. She also had psychic abilities similar to Wapiang. Wapiang's grandfather did not want him to continue getting involved in this matter, so he sent the old woman away. But with Wapiang's personality, he could not easily overlook such an important matter. That evening he came to find the old lady to ask for the address of her granddaughter. The old woman wanted to ask Wapiang to find someone to perform a ritual to drive away the spirits that were haunting her granddaughter. The next morning, Wapiang went to the little girl's house as the old woman had requested. Here, he met the little girl's mother. But the mother refused to let Wapiang see her daughter. Feeling helpless, he had to return. But as soon as he went outside, Wapiang witnessed a crime scene. The victim happened to be the husband of the woman he had just met. The police immediately arrived at the crime scene to investigate. Jiu Aiyang saw Wapiang and quickly pulled him to a corner. He told her the reason why he appeared here. Then the police continued to interrogate the wife. Looking at her expression, Jiu Aiyang realized that his wife was hiding something. After the police left, the mother-in-law also came to visit the family, as she heard that her son-in-law had met with an accident. She told her daughter to go find an exorcist for her granddaughter. Her husband's death may be connected to the spirits haunting her daughter. But the mother still insisted that her daughter was not possessed. The next day, the mother was summoned by the police to the station for further statement. The police found out that this family often had disputes and conflicts. They got divorced before. But why did the husband see her in the first place? The wife was going crazy and furious since the police started digging into her family's private matters. She said she knew nothing and was not involved in her husband's permanent death. The wife's attitude made Jiu Aiyang even more suspicious. Could she be the one who assassinated her husband? Someone else took advantage of the fact that the mother was not home. The mother-in-law took Wapiang and Priest Matthew to the house to perform an exorcism for the granddaughter. From what the girl said, Wapiang knew that the girl had seen a lot of demons and spirits lately. They were coming closer and closer to her over time. Among them was a red-dressed female demon who often appeared next to the little girl's father. Every time the little girl mentioned that female demon, both her father and mother got angry. It seemed likely that the female red-robed demon was somehow connected to the couple. At this moment, Matthew began to perform the exorcism ritual, but the girl did not show any reaction. This proved that the girl was not possessed. Just at this moment, the mother returned home. She was angry to see the presence of the two Wapiang people here. Unexpectedly, the little girl saw a demon walking beside her mother. That time, the girl was truly haunted. Wapiang restrained the girl so that Matthew could perform the exorcism ritual. Seeing her daughter in pain, then the mother anxiously called the police. Fortunately, the demon had just entered the girl. Matthew could easily expel it. Both of them finally breathed a sigh of relief. The mother didn't understand what was happening, worriedly holding the little girl in her arms. In the evening, Wapiang asked Jiu Aiyang to investigate the woman in the red dress mentioned in the girl's story. This woman had an accident just 2 months ago. If they were not mistaken, the person who caused the accident was the girl's father. That was the reason why the red-robed woman's spirit has been following him. Jiao Aiyang informed this to Wapyang. He wanted to confirm one more thing, that the murderer responsible for the father's death was in fact the daughter herself. The red-robed demoness was haunting the father, causing the girl to see him as a demon, which led her to throw a stone at his head. Inside her bag included a big stone. Someone told the girl that the way to drive away the demons around her was to simply throw stones at them. The mother also knew that her husband's death was caused by her own daughter, but she didn't confide to the police to protect her. After proving everything clearly, Wapyang still had one more question. If the vessel, the girl, has already been purged, then where will the red-robed demoness go? Matthew solemnly replied, it would possess the weakest soul. Could it be that little girl? Since the girl had just been exorcised, her soul was still weak, but over here, the girl was starting to show strange symptoms. She turned extremely pale. After that, the girl opened the door to lead a group of spirits to go outside the house alone. Wapyang's group arrived there, but they were unable to find the little girl. Now they shared their thoughts with her mother. She also knew she could no longer hide it, so she admitted everything. She took full responsibility for her actions. It was she who caused her daughter to be possessed by a demon. Wapyang surmised that it wouldn't be long before the girl returned to harm her mother. Since she had helped the father cover up the crimes he committed against the red-robed demoness, they waited outside the house. Just as predicted, the girl called her mother to meet, but didn't want anyone else to come along. The mother lost her way and hurriedly arrived at the meeting place with her daughter. Knowing that, the group was rushing to search for them in different directions. While looking for Matthew, Wapyang unexpectedly met him in an alley. He was feeling down since it's using his psychic ability. Wapyang saw the girl and her mother's lives. They quickly identified the crime scene. When they arrived, the group saw the mother lying on the ground. Matthew and Wapyang found the little girl. Jiao Aiyang called the ambulance for her mother. After a finding, the priest found the girl in a basement. He called for Wapyang. But the basement closed afterwards. The little girl wanted to talk privately with Matthew. Afterwards the priest dazzled the girl and performed a ritual. Thought that everything was successful, but the little girl let the priest know. The mother and brother Matthew were here. They were blaming why only Matthew lived alone. The priest began to feel oppressed by the souls around him. At this time, Wapyang arrived in front of the cave entrance. He wanted to break the door but could not get in. When Jiao Aiyang arrived, Wapyang began to enter a state of extrasensory perception. Wapyang saw many demons surrounding Matthew. Then he was called back by police officer Kong. Wapyang said that the priest was in danger. But the door openly surprisingly, Matthew stepped out with a pale face. His body felt completely drained of energy. Jiao Aiyang took him to the hospital soon. In the hospital, the priest encountered a nightmare. He regained conscious afterwards. The first thing he remembered was the girl being possessed by a demon. If not removed in time, the little girl would be in danger. Despite her weakened state, he had someone take her to the girl's location to perform the ritual. Matthew told Wapyang that the demon's energy this time was resisting his exorcism. Perhaps some kind of energy spell. Wapyang was sent to find that spell. He found it on the father's car. The temporary sorcerer sealed the energy of the spell to get rid of it. Jiao Aiyang and Lin Muk tied up the possessed girl again, then took her to her mother who was in the hospital. Matthew believes that the little girl saw her mother. Her soul would resist to the evil spirits currently possessing her body. The priest began the ritual. As soon as he looked into the child's eyes, he was suppressed. However, Matthew decided not to give up. Meanwhile, Wapyang was trying to destroy the spell-containing energy. Until it was completely destroyed, the exorcism ritual of the pastor would not be successful. The evil spirits inside her screamed in pain and escaped. She laid exhaustedly in her mother's arms and apologized for mistakes. The mother also wholeheartedly comforted and reassured the little girl. Both of them were fine now. A few days later, the little girl recovered very well. Wapyang and the priest came to ask her, among clinging soul groups, did the child see any demon with only one eye? Unexpectedly, the little girl had met Park In-zo during a trip with her father. If she met again, the little girl would definitely recognize. Wapyang wanted to take the girl to meet Congressman Park as priest stopped her. The girl has just recovered so couldn't endure any attacks. However, the little girl heard what they said and she wanted to verify and help them. Was the female legislator a vessel for the demonic spirit of Park In-zo? The next day, the priest took the little girl to the church, and she was extremely frightened to see Congressman Park because she saw ghosts. However, the spirit following Congressman Park was not Park In-zo, but it was the murdered female student 20 years ago. In the evening, the female legislator went to a sewer and met the ghost Park In-zo. She asked the demon to deal with the 3 people following her. Those 3 people were Jiao Aiyang and Matthew along with priest Matthew. Meanwhile, Wapyang came to the young priest's house. He wanted to investigate the Matthew brothers' death. In his pile of belongings, Matthew took out a pair of rings. Wapyang was surprised because these were his parents' wedding. At this time, a man returned to a secret room in which there seemed to be gloom and wickedness. When he took off his hat, he was surprised to find out that he is Wapyang's father. He folded his hands and prayed to drive away Park In-zo. The next day, Wapyang asked Jiao Aiyang to find his father. She wanted to know why his wedding ring ended up in the hands of the possessed priest. During the investigation, they found out that he was living in a homeless people organization. Wapiang came to this organization to find his father. When Wapiang saw his father hurriedly running away, he still believed that the demon Park In-zo was still haunting him. The father used a knife to attack his son, causing him to slightly injured. When seeing the current situation, Wapiang had to let him go. In the evening, Priest Matthew saw Wapiang coming to inquire information from his father. He still believed that Wapiang was sent by Park In-zo to kill him. But when Matthew said he was the younger brother of the priest who was possessed 20 years ago. According to his account, the priest knew the beginning and end of the story. After massacring the whole family, the older brother ran up the mountain to end his own life. Wapiang's father saw that and tried to prevent the possessed priest. He grabbed his finger wearing the ring and broke it. That was the reason why Mr. Hoa Piang's wedding ring was in his hands. Now, he took out some notebooks, not expecting him to spend 20 years searching for people named Park In-zo. Finding out the reason why that demon's soul refused to dissipate and wandered in this mortal world. However, for 20 years the father couldn't find anyone with a similar name. It can be said that the name Park In-zo was made up by people, but in reality it did not exist. The next day, the priest told this story to Wapiang and Jiao Aiyang. He believed that Wapiang's father was trying to prove that his son was not Park In-zo. Upon hearing this, Wapiang became angry again. He didn't need these things. What he needed was the true love of a father that he had never been able to do. Wapiang felt frustrated and walked away. The next day, Jiao Aiyang and the priest went to Wapiang's hometown to know about Park In-zo's legend. According to the villagers' directions, they went to find Wapiang's grandfather. He was the oldest person there and had witnessed the appearance of the demon. They arrived at the house and directly addressed the issue. What is the true background of Park In-zo? Wapiang's grandfather took out a box of documents that recounted the story of the first person possessed 60 years ago. The man immersed himself in the sea for 3 days and 3 nights, and then he stabbed himself in the eye with a knife. From there, the legend of the demon Park In-zo was born. At this time, Wapiang came to find his father. He wanted to know the reason why he was chased away 20 years ago. Not only that, but he also wanted to harm his own son. At that moment, the father no longer wanted to hide the truth from Wapiang. The events that year were due to the grandfather's guidance. The grandfather said that Wapiang was the demon Park In-zo, who had harmed his mother and grandmother, so he needed to be eliminated. At that time, Wapiang still thought that his father's actions were due to his hatred towards him, but he never expected that it was due to his grandfather. Could it be that his grandfather was actually Park In-zo? Wapiang called to ask his grandfather why he deceived him. The grandfather tried to explain that it was his father who acted, and he had not influenced him at all. In the end, who among the two of them was the one telling the lie? Wapiang returned to his hometown to investigate his grandfather. He discovered that the old man had left the house. Wapiang found many bus tickets running to his city, but he had never visited him. So why was his grandfather going there? Wapiang became even more suspicious of him. On the other side, the grandfather met with Wapiang's father. His expression was very frightening as he spoke to him. Why did you let Wapiang find out about that? In the evening, the father arranged to meet Wapiang. He told Wapiang that it was his grandfather who was Park In-zo. The father's fearful expression urged Wapiang to escape. Suddenly, someone called the father. After answering the phone, he seemed possessed. Wapiang sensed that his father was about to harm someone else. Just as he was regaining his composure, his father walked in. The father said that Wapiang should have died a long time ago. Then he rushed to attack him. The father almost choked Wapiang. Unexpectedly, someone opened the door. The father startled and ran away. Wapiang stood up and chased after him. He discovered that the man had been killed by his father. However, people saw him in the victim's room, so he became a suspect in a murder case. Wapiang continued running to find his father as the police quickly arrived at the crime scene. Through the security cameras, they identified 2 suspects, Wapiang and his father. Jiao Aiyang called to request Wapiang to come to the station to give a statement. If not, his crime would become even more serious. Wapiang was still busy searching for his father, so he couldn't follow Officer Kang's instructions. If he didn't find him soon, he might end up doing something terrible. After that, Wapiang went to find Father Matthew, asking him to help locate his father and perform an exorcism on him. Priest Matthew agreed to go with Wapiang. They headed to the place where his father was most likely to be. However, after waiting for a long time, his father still didn't show up. Wapiang remembered another place. When he returned home, he encountered his grandfather. Wapiang asked him how he knew his house. "I've never brought you here to visit. Are you really Park In-zo?" The grandfather denied it and angrily struck Wapiang. He, in turn, left in silence, filled with anger. On the other side, Jiao Aiyang was frantically searching for Wapiang. She tried to contact him and priest Father Matthew, but no one bothered to answer the phone. Then Officer Kang arrived at Wapiang's house and spotted him. She quickly chased after him to apprehend him. Wapiang tried to run, but was blocked by a car from his senior. He was handcuffed and taken to the station for questioning. In Wapiang Fortress, he was extremely anxious to say that he was not the culprit. "The real culprit was my father. On Chi Muon Di Temong I. Jiao Ian beat Du Wapiang Noi Du La that. He just wanted to find him." Jiao Aiyang knew that what he said was true, but the truth was only known by them and could not explain to others. Officer Kang decided to search for Wapiang's father in his place. She then went to find Father Matthew. Now, Officer Kong revealed something she had investigated but hadn't had the chance to tell Matthew and Wapyong. Park In-seo was actually once a human. He harmed his entire family, stabbed himself in the right eye, and then immersed himself in the East Sea. He always claimed that he was not human. Park In-seo did this to transform himself into a supreme evil spirit. The reason Park In-seo's identity went undetected was that he came from a powerful family. Due to the wrongdoing he committed, his family removed him from their genealogy. Jo Ayoung knew this because she met the son of someone who worked in that family 60 years ago. The true identity of Park In-seo was the younger brother of Congressman Park Hong-ju. Meanwhile, Congressman Park went to meet his biological father to ask about Tum has been helping him all these years. When hearing the name Park In-seo, the father startled. Hadn't he already ascended to heaven? How did he help him? Then he recounted the entire incident to the female legislator. Park In-seo was the younger brother of the female senator's grandfather. He had a penchant for violence. After harming his wife and daughter, Park In-seo took his own life. The name Park In-seo was never mentioned again. Now, the father looked at the politician. Indeed, she bore a resemblance to the demon Park In-seo. Politician Park looked at the father with a strange expression. At that moment, Priest Matthew received a call from Wapyong's father. He said he would come to find Wapyong to end everything that should have ended 20 years ago. The father wanted to personally end his son's life. Matthew called to inform Jo Ayoung. She was at the crime scene caused by Wapyong's father. Suddenly, Officer Kong noticed a suspicious person. She quickly chased after him, took him to the station. This person was a witness who had seen Wapyong's father assassinate someone else. Wapyong was exonerated and released. Now, the priest came to talk to Hoa Pyong. Hoa Pyong's father contacted Matthew and said that he will return to the very place where everything began to end it all. Wapyong remembered something. He hurriedly called his grandfather, but he didn't pick up the phone. They hurriedly drove back to Wapyong's hometown. On this side, the grandfather returned home to find his son waiting for him. The grandfather hugged his son tightly, emotional. Finally, he has come back. Now, he noticed that his son was showing strange behavior. Realizing that was a sign of being haunted, he intended to take out his phone and call Wapyong, but his son discovered it and pulled it out to threaten him. You don't need to call. It will return, and we will end everything. This made the grandfather extremely anxious. On the way back, Wapyong had a vision of his grandfather being harmed. He hadn't returned in time. His grandfather had been brutally stabbed by his father. With his last bit of strength, he apologized to Wapyong. Long ago, it was my grandfather who asked my father to assassinate Wapyong, because he didn't want to see the scene of him becoming a demon like Park In-seo. Wapyong was extremely distressed. His grandfather also fainted. Jo Ayoung tried to rescue, but it was ineffective. Then they started finding their father. Wapyong discovered that he was planning to run away to the mountain, so he hurriedly chased after him. At a point, Wapyong lost his father, so he looked around with curiosity to find him. Surprisingly, the father did not restrain Wapyong from behind. He reached into his pocket and took out a ring. When he saw the wedding ring, his father regained consciousness. He realized he had made a grave mistake and urged Wapyong to go back. After that, the father ran deeper into the forest, and Wapyong continued to chase after him. He hurriedly came to stop his father from ending his own life. With the demon inside his body, the man shouted, "You and everyone around you would have to pay a bitter price." Then he restarted his own life network. Hoa Pyong couldn't save her father, screaming in despair. Now Wapyong was in extreme pain. His father had ended his life while his grandfather was in the hospital. Both of them were not Park In-seo. Hoa Pyong no longer wanted to live. Wapyong remembered his father's words. You and all those around you will have to pay the price. Wapyong was afraid of affecting others, so he told them that he would stop searching for the demon Park In-seo. But Jo Ayoung and Father Matthew up to this minute did not want to give up. After witnessing so many incidents, both of them wanted to catch the demon soul Park In-seo. They must punish it for the wrongs it has committed. At that moment, the elderly priest arranged to meet Priest Matthew. He said that it was possible Wapyong was the one possessed by the demon Park In-seo. Matthew had once suspected Wapyong. However, after all the events, he could trust Wapyong. The elderly priest mentioned that 20 years ago, when the incident happened, there were only 5 people in that room. His brother and Wapyong's father ended their own lives. His grandfather was in the hospital, leaving only me and him. The elderly priest asserted that he was not possessed. Thus, it could only be Wapyong. The elderly priest proposed a hypothesis: the demon could be inside Wapyong without him knowing. At that time, Wapyong was too young to sense it, which is why he is only now reacting to the demon. Moreover, the demons Matthew had encountered also confirmed that anyone near Wapyong would face disaster. Matthew felt doubtful once again. Priest Matthew decided to investigate this matter thoroughly. The next day, he went to find the shaman who performed the exorcism on Wapyong 20 years ago. To his surprise, she vividly remembered everything that had happened that day. The blind shaman said that the demon inside Wapyong was too powerful. She could not drive it out, she could only temporarily seal its energy. The sealing time was also about to run out. The demon would once again fully escape and take over Wapyong's body, turning him into a true demon. Upon hearing this, Matthew was extremely surprised and filled with worry. What could be done to help Wapyong? He was starting to show signs from when he was a child. He could see the spirits, and his right eye began to hurt. Wapyung asked the shaman about this. He said that the talisman sealing Wapyung's powers might be weakening. Now it would be best for him to stay at home. But Wapyung was still determined to find the demon Park In-do, so he hadn't given up. He just feared for Jo Ai-young and Father Matthew's safety, so he lied to them about no longer finding Park In-zo. Jo Ai-young was monitoring politician Park. She thought she would meet the demon Park In-zo, but unexpectedly, the one who appeared was the elderly priest. The next day, Jo Ai-young met with Father Matthew. He shared his suspicions with her. It was possible that Park In-zo was inside Wapyung without him knowing. Because out of the 5 people present at Wapyung's house at that time, only Wapyung and the elderly priest remained. Jo Ai-young now mentioned that last night she had been watching the politician and discovered the elderly priest in the middle of the night. If we talked about suspects, the elderly priest would seem to be the one who could potentially be Park In-zo. That evening, Jo Ai-young returned home and discovered an intruder in her room. Jo Ai-young chased after the man in black. She caught him and recognized that he was the bodyguard of politician Park. After that, Officer Khan let him escape. Now, the senior also arrived at Jo Ai-young's house looking for her. Noticing that she was chasing the man in black, he also followed him. Unfortunately, the senior was seriously injured. Jo Ai-young, worried about him, stopped chasing the attacker. After that, Officer Khan took the senior to the hospital. She informed her superiors that the culprit was politician Park's bodyguard. However, her superiors felt powerless upon him. They didn't want to get involved with someone as dangerous as her. At that moment, the senior was alone in his hospital room. Suddenly, someone approached, surprising him. After that, the senior arranged to meet Jo Ai-young, saying he wanted to take her to someone who knew about the demon Park In-zo. Officer Khan didn't suspect and get into the car with him. Meanwhile, Wapyung went to find the elderly priest. He discovered that the person who called his father just before he was possessed was the elderly priest. He asked him about this. The elderly priest said that Wapyung's grandfather had asked him to encourage his father to come home. Suddenly, Wapyung noticed that the cross in the elderly priest's room was inverted. Wapyung recalled the day the demon Park In-zo transferred from his brother to another person. At that time, there were 5 people. Now only he and the elderly priest remained. He suspected that the possessed one was the elderly priest. Wapyung asked for permission to leave. The elderly priest realized that Wapyung had figured something out. He made a deceptive call. Matthew advised him not to trust Wapyung from now on. He suggested that Wapyung might mislead others into thinking that elderly priest was the demon. At that moment, Wapyung began to follow the elderly priest. Suddenly, Matthew arrived. He wanted to clarify his suspicions. He wanted to see if Wapyung was truly the demon. Matthew wanted to check Wapyung's right eye. Wapyung covered his eye but could still see Father Matthew clearly. Suddenly, he fell into a trance. He saw Jo Ai-young in danger and quickly called to warn her. To his surprise, the senior had also been possessed. He intended to kill Jo Ai-young. After hearing Wapyung's phone call, Officer Khan attempted to jump out of the car, causing it to crash. Fortunately, she was only lightly injured, but the senior had vanished. Suddenly, he appeared behind Jo Ai-young with a terrifying expression. After that, the senior held a knife and continuously attacked her but did not hit any shots. Jo Ai-young ran away and then followed her to an abandoned building. Jo Ai-young managed to escape into a room. Frustrated that he couldn't harm her, the senior moved to another room and climbed the room's balcony where Jo Ai-young was. He rushed to attack Jo Ai-young, causing her to hit her head against the wall and faint. Afterwards, the possessed senior caused Jo Ai-young to be thrown down below. Luckily, she managed to hold onto a rope. Now Wapyung and the priest arrived at the abandoned house. They saw police officer Kong hanging on the edge of death. He saw them also leave. Wapyung and the priest divided into 2 paths. The priest chased after his senior while Wapyung went to save Jo Ai-young. Wapyung managed to grab police officer Kong before she collapsed. He tried to pull her nearly deaths away. After that, Wapyung took her back and called Matthew. Surprisingly, the senior decided to secretly attack Wapyung from behind. He discovered and used pepper spray along with handcuffs to subdue him. Wapyung waited for Father Matthew to come and exorcise the evil spirit for his senior. When Matthew arrived, he saw his senior taking Wapyung manipulation. Priest hurriedly called Wapyung. The demon inside his senior made them ensure Park In-zo would come to find Wapyung, because he was the perfect vessel for that supreme soul. Now everyone could confirm that Wapyung was not being possessed by Park In-do. Priest Matthew decided to perform an exorcism for his predecessor. However, his spiritual power was too weak. Holy water was not enough to ward off evil. They must find a new way. Matthew wanted Wapyung to help him find a source of water to make holy water. Wapyung ran around the rooms and finds a water source. He reported back to the priest. Matthew began the ritual to create holy water. Afterwards, 3 people immersed themselves in the sacred water as his disciples. The priest began to meditate. Wapyung helped Jo Ai-young hold onto his senior. The demon inside him began to scream in pain. "Capture the demon for me." Then the senior sprayed a mouthful of seawater. Finally, the exorcism was successful. Matthew was extremely exhausted. The next day, Jo Ayon woke up in the hospital. She was grateful that Wapyong and Matthew came to save her and brought the senior back. The police understood why Wapyong didn't want her to continue hunting demons, because he was afraid she would be in danger like this time, but that only made Jo Ayon more determined to help Wapyong catch the demon. After the recent performance, Father Matthew weakened noticeably. His body began to show signs of toxic gas. If he continued to do the impossible, Matthew would not be able to bear it anymore. At this time, the young priest still doubted Wapyong. He came to investigate at the place of the French master. He recently told Matthew that Wapyong often has eye pain. At that time, the wizard only just realized, could it be that you doubt that Wapyong is Park In-do? Priest did not deny about that, because there was a demon that let him know that the soul of Park In-do was still in Wapyong's house. The shaman suspected that someone had placed a talisman in Wapyong's house, causing him to exhibit signs similar to the demon. The wizard decided to visit Wapyong's hometown to investigate. After leaving home, Priest Matthew decided to go to Wapyong to check once again if he was being possessed by the spirit of Park In-do. Matthew noticed that Wapyong was experiencing eye pain again and mistook him for his father, which deepened his suspicions. Wapyong wanted clarity with Matthew, so he asked the priest to perform a ritual to ensure he wasn't possessed by the demon Park In-do. After the ritual, Wapyong remained normal, which made Matthew fully trust him. But then possessed one by a demonic spirit was the old priest. Matthew couldn't believe it was exactly right, because when he was little, he loved and took care of the brother like his own child, considered him as my father. How can Matthew accept a person who treats him so well was a fallen demon who did not cause harm? On the other hand, the wizard visited Wapyong's hometown. He used magic to see where Park In-do's soul hid the charm. The mage discovered something hidden beneath the ground and hastily dug it up. Surprisingly, he was attacked by ghosts. He was seriously injured. He got into the car and told Wapyong about person the demon Park In-do had possessed. But he has not yet been fully spoken. The ghost had stopped him. After that, my spirit dragged the sorcerer out to the field, murdered him, and hid the sorcerer's body. The one controlling the evil spirit was the old priest whom Matthew always trusted. At this time, Matthew returned to the room of the elder priest at the church. He was not here. Matthew found old priest's Bible, not expecting the inside to be completely blackened. Finally, he also accepted the truth. Park In-do's soul was residing within the elder priest's body whom Matthew trusted the most. The next day, Priest Matthew went to the church to listen to the old priest read the Bibles. He read everything wrong. It was like a magical spell that made believers dreamy. Matthew came to the old priest's feet. Afterwards, he was caught by the authorities. The priests asked why Matthew disrupted the ceremony. He brought the Bible he found in the old priest's room, which surprised everyone. Could he swear on the Bible like that? The old priest still has arrogantly denied. He said that Matthew wanted to falsely accuse him. He said he was mentally ill like his late older brother. One day, it would be invaded by evil and become a murderer. Matthew was extremely angry and said that the priest was the devil, but no one believed him. Also for this reason, Matthew was locked up by the professor. Meanwhile, Wapyong returned to his hometown to find his friend, but he didn't have any clues. In the evening on the way to Wapyong, he encountered my friend's ghost. He ensured that something bad happened to the wizard. He was certain that it was caused by the old priest. The next day, Jo Ayon attended a press conference of Congressman Park. She asked about the information of the old priest, but she pretended not to know. Unexpectedly, someone came to the press conference and caused chaos and said the congressman is a corrupt person. Jo Ayon met that woman to ask for the reason. He informed Jo Ayon about the illegal activities that the female senator and the old priest had conspired together. They escaped tax corruption into the case of Jo Ayon's mother 20 years ago. The woman said the senator was a demon. Normally, she was cheerful and friendly, but when angry, she turned into a crazy woman. Jo Ayon wanted the woman to be a witness to expose the female senator and the elderly priest. She immediately agreed. In the evening, the congressman went to the woman's house and gave her some money. She said that if she continued to remain silent, the congressman would give her a larger sum of money. The woman disagreed and chased the senator back, making her angry. If you don't want to be silent, I will help you be silent. A senator arrested the woman for burying the grave. Then she was scared and tried to find a solution. At this time, the old priest is at the hospital where Wapyong's grandfather is lying. He wanted to assassinate Wapyong's grandfather. Upon receiving the call, the old priest threw a strong punch at the senator. It was a sensitive period. Many sharp investigations were pointing towards them and the senator was acting like that. The old priest sent her back while I stayed to handle the crime scene. He took the corpse up to the mountain tomb island. Jo Ayon contacted the woman to discuss to be a witness against the female senator. She called many times, but no one replied. Knowing that something was wrong, Jo Ayon hurriedly went to her house. They didn't notice anything suspicious. The whole room was very tidy. Jo Ayon remembered that the last time she came to this room, it was very messy. She suspected that someone tried to stage a fake scene. Jo Ayon went outside to collect several bags of trash. She discovered a weapon still stained with blood. Jo Ayon and the police quickly sealed off the crime scene. At the crime scene, Jo Ayon found an open voice recorder. Here was the argument between Senator Park and the woman who has passed away. The one who attacked was the senator. Jo Ayon reported this to her superior. However, he was a coward. Despite the clear evidence, no arrest warrant was issued. He always said that Congressman Park cannot involve in this case. On the other hand, Wah-Pyung continued to monitor the congressman's house. He discovered the driver driving her car somewhere. Wah-Pyung followed the car to a force. The driver was called by the senator to meet the old priest. Knowing about her wrongdoing, the old priest wanted to help her. Wah-Pyung confronted the old priest. He remembered the wicked things he had done to him and those around him. Wah-Pyung angrily rushed over and punched him. Afterwards, Wah-Pyung tied up the old priest and informed Jo I-young. She hurriedly reported this news to Priest Matthew to expel the demon Park In-do from the old priest's body. Matthew quickly found a way to escape from the church prison to meet Wah-Pyung. Once he arrived, he called Wah-Pyung for his exact location. Wah-Pyung informed Matthew that he was on the deserted road. Suddenly, the sky changed color, and the evil spirit within the old priest escaped, which distracted Wah-Pyung. Surprisingly, the possessed taxi driver rushed to stab Wah-Pyung. On the other side, Jo I-young returned to the house of the woman just now. To their surprise, she had returned alive. However, it was clear that she was possessed. The woman stabbed herself directly in the eye with a sharp object. At that moment, Priest Matthew rushed to Wah-Pyung's location. Wah-Pyung urged him to chase after the old priest and not let him escape. Matthew hurried after him and encountered the possessed taxi driver. Matthew used the cross to exorcise the demon, but he lacked the power. Overwhelmed, he fell to the ground. Meanwhile, the taxi driver ran into the street to get hit by a car. Then, Matthew took Wah-Pyung to the hospital. The next day, Wah-Pyung woke up. He received news that his grandfather was transferred by the evil priest, which made him extremely angry. He didn't know what else the evil priest wanted to do next. Wah-Pyung decided to leave the hospital to find the old priest. Meanwhile, Officer Khan was suspended for falsely accusing Senator Park. The woman took her own life in front of the police, not assassinated as Jo I-young said. She had an important matter to attend to that she couldn't pursue as a police officer. She drove to the hospital to pick up Wah-Pyung and Father Matthew. 3 of them prepared for the final chase of the spirit Park In-do. At that moment, the old priest took Wah-Pyung's grandfather out of the city. When they stopped to refuel, he noticed an employee being bullied. Then, the old priest called the employee over, took his hand, and said that from now on, he would be the guide. The employee's expression changed immediately. Wah-Pyung sensed that a possessed person was about to act. The group found a gas station, but the owner had been assassinated. The employee also stabbed his own eye, and rushed to Wah-Pyung's car and pointed out a path for them. The group followed that direction. On the way, they encountered a bus. The driver had attacked all the passengers. This was still part of the old priest's plan. Wherever he went, he left a trail of slaughter. The police found the driver, who continued pointing the group in a direction before stabbing himself in the eye. Wah-Pyung realized that the direction was east. The old priest aimed to lead them to the sea. At that moment, he arrived at a nursing home in the seaside village. This was where he used to do charity work 20 years ago. It was also where he was born. The old priest was the first person's son that Park In-do possessed. The old priest's father was chased away by the villagers, leaving him desperate and allowing the demon soul of Park In-do to possess him. Now, the old priest returned to take revenge on the villagers. He unleashed the demon spirit to possess everyone at the nursing home. They then transformed into demons. Some took their own lives, while others turned on their loved ones. That evening, Wah-Pyung went to the director's house at the nursing home. Upon arriving at the director's house, Wah-Pyung's group discovered that he was possessed. The 3 of them quickly subdued him. Wah-Pyung wanted Father Matthew to perform an exorcism, but this time he no longer had the power. Matthew had almost lost all his abilities. He was possessed and ran outside in fear. Matthew knelt down, pleading with God for a little more strength to defeat the remaining demons. But the young priest's body was drained of life. Seeing this, Wah-Pyung realized that if they continued the exorcism, Matthew would die. But the priest insisted he could continue. Inside the house, Jo I-young had subdued the possessed director. Family members had also called the police. The police arrived and knocked on the door, but Jo I-young sensed something was off. She told the family members to open the door slowly. The police officer knocked harder after waiting too long and then broke in through a window. Jo I-young realized that he was also possessed. He rushed forward to attack her. Jo I-young was not his opponent. Wah-Pyung and the priest arrived just in time and subdued the demon. Matthew attempted the exorcism but was violently thrown back. The young priest had no magic left. Wah-Pyung's group realized the entire village was possessed. If they didn't act quickly, everyone would die. To exorcise the demons possessing everyone, Wah-Pyung's group needed to confront the supreme demon, Park In-do, who was controlling them. The group decided to go to the nursing home to find the old priest. Once there, they split up to find him. Wah-Pyung's old injury flared up again. Jo I-young urged him to sit and wait while they looked for the old priest, warning that he would be in serious trouble before they found him. Pyung told Jo I-young that he needed to be the one to end all of this, because Father Matthew became too weak. If he continued to perform the ritual, he would depart forever. Wapyong also had a plan to eliminate the spirit of Park In-doo from the old priest's body. Meanwhile, Matthew found the old priest and wanted to help him eliminate the spirit of Park In-doo. But under the strong influence of the demon, Matthew couldn't even move. The old priest told Matthew that he would end everything to prepare for a new beginning. At this moment, all the possessed people were starting to kill each other. This entire village would soon be destroyed. Matthew, despite suffering from the torment of demonic spirits, still held his cross and moved forward. God would not step back to help him eliminate the spirit of Park In-doo. Seeing this, Wapyong quickly rushed to stop Matthew. He didn't want the young priest to be lost forever. Wapyong then revealed the original plan of demon Park In-doo. The perfect body the demon wanted to possess was Wapyong's. He was willing to surrender his body. He wanted Park In-doo to enter his body and then end the game himself. This was the way to completely eliminate Park In-doo. But unexpectedly, the old priest changed his mind. He wanted to end everything and then jumped from a height. They were confused about what was happening. Why, at this moment, did the demon Park In-doo want to stop? After the old priest's death, the villagers returned normally and Wapyong found his grandfather. The next day, they discussed the old priest's death since everything was going according to his plan. Why did he want to end? Matthew recalled the saying that ends everything to prepare for a new beginning. It could be the soul of Park In-doo's return. 60 years ago, he appeared for the first time, 20 years later, for the second, and now, for the third. When would he return next? No one could know for sure. A few days later, Father Matthew visited possessed homes to check on them. Once again, he found that these people still reacted to the cross. To his surprise, the demon spirits were still present. The young priest reported this to Jo I-young, who was shocked by the news. Officer Khan was startled to find a crow's head in a jar at her house. Both of them immediately thought of Wapyong. He could be in danger as well. Meanwhile, Wapyong was actively searching his friend, the sorcerer's body. He recalled why the sorcerer had disappeared. That day, the sorcerer had come to Wapyong's house and discovered something. He also told Wapyong that he knew who Park In-doo was. Wapyong went home to search for more information. He discovered signs of digging in the garden. Wapyong began to dig and uncovered a talisman made from a human corpse. This body was the first person possessed by Park In-doo. To his shock, Park In-doo was actually his grandfather. Wapyong confronted him about this, but the person in front of him was not his grandfather but Park In-doo's spirit. Wapyong fully regained his childhood psychic abilities. Now he could see spirits and demons. Since childhood, Wapyong knew the demon Park In-doo was pretending to be his grandfather. However, he didn't tell for fear it would harm his family. After the exorcism, Wapyong lost his memory and his special abilities. Because Wapyong had a perfect body but strong sealing abilities, Park In-doo had to stay close to him and gradually break down the seals. Only then could he possess Wapyong's body. Each time Wapyong suffered, the seal weakened a little more. That's why everyone around Wapyong gradually drifted away from him forever. Park In-doo also exploited the old priest and the female senator for his own purposes. He nearly manipulated everyone. Humans all have a dark side, and he exploited that darkness to turn them into puppets in his plan. Wapyong approached Park In-doo, but he was overpowered and coughed up blood. He told Park In-doo that if he desired this so much, then come and take it. Wapyong wanted to be united with Park In-doo forever. After the spirit of Park In-doo entered Wapyong's body, he began to carve the sealing symbols taught by his sorcerer friend onto his body. Just then, Matthew arrived at Wapyong's house. He wanted to help Wapyong with the exorcism. However, Wapyong, still partially conscious, didn't want the young priest to die because of him. Wapyong subdued Matthew and ran toward the sea. Jo I-young saw this and followed him. Seeing Wapyong about to dive into the sea, Jo I-young swam out to pull him back to shore. Matthew also rushed over to perform the exorcism, but at that moment, the demon Park In-doo had completely taken over Wapyong's body. He pushed both of them underwater. Jo I-young cried and begged him to try to control himself. Wapyong temporarily regained control of his body. He stabbed the eye with a knife and then jumped into the sea. Matthew swam after but fainted due to exhaustion. Wapyong released the young priest and slowly sank to the bottom of the sea. Jo I-young swam to rescue them but could only save Matthew. The next day, the police began finding Wapyong's body. With the guidance of a spiritual force, they found the sorcerer's body. Wapyong, on the other hand, had no trace at all. However, both of them believed that he was still alive. 1 year later, Jo I-young and priest Matthew came to Wapyong's house to visit his grandfather. They discovered that someone had sent many supplies to the location. Through their investigation, they traced it back to the sender's house. Wapyong was indeed alive. The three of them reunited, filled with joy and emotion. Demons always exist around us. You can look under the bed or in the corner of the room and see them. Do you see anything? If you have a pure heart and do good, God will follow and protect you. Just rest assured that demons will linger behind. Thank you for watching the entire movie.